Welcome back. This is part 4 of Better Load Management. We're going to talk about macrocycles. And before we get into the macrocycles, there's another series, if you've enjoyed this one, that you can find on my YouTube channel as well as my Substack, called Smart Season Planning. And it's a video series that talks you through how to build your year. But this one is more about stacking years, specifically how the mindset you need to take yourself to a whole new level, a level that you can't even imagine is possible right now. That's the idea with a macro cycle. So the purpose of these longer cycles, remember the micro cycle is the short, the mesocycle is the medium, the macro cycle is a longer cycle. And the purpose of these longer cycles is to build on each other over time, taking us and taking the athlete to a whole new level, a higher level each macro cycle. And that's an important thing for you to remember when it comes time to decide to end the microcycle, because you're not necessarily going to need rest at that point. If things are going well, you're going to be feeling great, you're going to be fit, you will have had a solid result at a recent race, and you will have taken yourself to a new level, ideally. And you're going to be thinking to yourself, I don't really need to rest right now. I can keep it going. And that's true. But if you don't back off, then what's going to happen is a few months out, somewhere between 3 and 5 months out, you'll find you stop adapting to training. Now, you might not believe me when I tell you that. You're going to probably have to experience it for yourself. But after you've experienced it for yourself, I hope you learn the lesson. Because what I found was the years that I didn't take a deep fall kind of reset, break, whatever you want to call it, by the time I got to early spring, I was starting to go stale. And so I want you to remember that. You're not resting because you need it right now. You're resting because you want to go to the next level. And the next level is going to require 3 to 5 microcycles. So if you're thinking it's this 1,000-day period, it could even be 2,000-day periods to really build yourself up, stacking them up over time. Another thing for you to remember, the greater the level you take yourself to, the greater the unload is going to be required. And what I mean by that is the fitter you get, the closer you get to your ultimate potential, the deeper you're going to have to shed fatigue each time you make the choice to shed the fatigue. Great example of this, Niels van der Poel, a Swedish speed skater that we've been talking about. He's actually retired 3 times, and he chatted me through it. And after this most recent Olympics, where 2 gold medals, 2 world records, he retired again. And he said, you know what? I've been through this before, actually twice before I made this choice to back off again. And so I know what to expect. And sometimes my recommendation is don't take it down to 0 because that's a real stress on your body. But when you take it down, things are going to change and you're going to need to manage your mood in other ways. So how long should your microcycle be? It's a big question. If you're a relatively new athlete, you'll be able to train through your first fall, winter, spring. You won't need to back off all that much. The reason being, if you're smart, you haven't been ramping that much. But in that second season, when you're starting to see the benefits come through, you probably will have ramped significantly across the summer. And so you're going to need, even if you don't feel it, your following year is going to benefit from having a lighter block somewhere within your fall and shedding all that fatigue. And then as you develop it as an athlete and as you move up the levels, you're going to need to unload at least once a year, shed all that fatigue. Now, each time you have an unload, planned or unplanned, unplanned being you go stale, you get injured, life intervenes, reestablish general capacity. This is really important because you're going to have memories of the training and the load you had before you unloaded. And if you let those memories guide your return to training, you're going to be training too much and too intensely. You have to come back with a mindset that I'm going to ramp in gradually general capacity. So it's the low end aerobic, and I'm going to reestablish my metabolic flexibility, my metabolic capacity before going into more specific, more challenging training. And this is a mistake a lot of beginners make in their winter, where they're like, oh, Mother Nature's pushing my volume down, so I'm going to compensate by doing a whole bunch of red zone training and try and push my VO2 up. That's not what's limiting your performance. Endurance and strength is limiting your ultimate development, and you should be focusing on that at a reduced level. And what you can achieve in the winter and early spring is increased frequency, and particularly for a skill-based sport, such as, say, swimming, that frequency will pay off even if the volume is stepped down a little bit. Finally, healthy rest yields supercompensation. Another thing you might not believe until you've tried it. Many of us only rest when we're exhausted or we're doing a quick freshen before a race. Once you get this right and you learn to back off and adapt from the work that you're putting in, you'll see that you're able to get even better on the same or less total workload. And this is a really powerful concept that I hope you experiment with in your own training. Thanks for listening.